Good evening and welcome to the October 2nd meeting of the Wakefield Municipal Gas and Light Board of Commissioners. I call to order the meeting at 6:30 p.m. I'd like to remind everyone that this meeting is being recorded. Tonight, given the circumstances of the hurricane that's hit parts of Tennessee, the Carolinas and Georgia, it would be great if you could provide an update.
Sure. So the hurricane hit on Thursday night into Friday. We had crews, so NEPA, all our mutual aid is coordinated through NEPA. So they actually began gathering help before the storm actually hit. So the first two teams headed out before the storm hit and were en route to Georgia and Florida initially. Florida was in pretty good shape because it hit a limited land area in Florida, and two of the largest municipals in the country are Orlando and Kissimmee, and they were not really that severely impacted. So they ended up supporting the Florida municipals. So we ended up helping out in Georgia initially, and now we also have, NEPA actually has 6 total teams down there now. A few are still in Georgia and some are in South Carolina. So the devastation, Dave and I have been participating in the ESCC calls. There's been several of them. They include FERC, NERC, the White House, the Department of Energy, all the major utilities. And the initial calls were having report outs from Florida and Georgia. By Sunday, we were getting report outs of major damage from 10 different states. And so the devastation in inland areas was much greater than expected. Part of the problem was that the storm track really didn't significantly include the Western Carolinas. It was supposed to hockey stick in towards Tennessee and Kentucky and move that way more. And the impact in the Carolinas was significant. So there's been a lot of work. The last call, which was last night, they were still looking for almost 2,400 bodies to help. And so more calls were put out. There's more mutual aid crews heading down. 2 more teams, the 5th and 6th team from NEPA are on their way down as well. So a lot going on. We have 2 guys down there right now. They're still in Georgia. We're not sure when they're going to get released from there. So they're still down in the Georgia area. The conditions are not the best, as I explained. They're sleeping on cots in a firehouse, and they are getting more food now. But originally, it was like they were getting sandwiches, and that was about it. So they've gradually been able to get more places opened up, and so their accommodations have been a little bit better, but they spend most of their time sleeping on cots in a firehouse. So, they're down there to help, and they're doing the best they can, but, so our crews have actually been for the past 5 or 6 days in Sylvania, Georgia, which is outside of Augusta. So that's where our particular guys have been, but we've been helping out a lot of the munis and co-ops down in that area. So
with the call out for more people, are we expected to send more of our crew?
We're probably not going to send another crew right now. We'll wait and see if they get relocated.
Still over 1 million customers out in those 5 states right now.
Yeah, the peak was 4.8 million, I think they said on the first call. And so it's significant. The committee that Dave and I are on, the ESCC, is very, the head of the Department of Energy was on last night's call, and he had just gotten off the call with Biden, and there's representatives from the White House team that are on these calls, and they're really just concerned with making sure what is needed. That's what they're asking. What do we need, and how can we help you get it? On Sunday's call, one of the concerns in the Carolinas was we would love more people, but we have no way to accommodate them. We're like, every cot is full. We need the ability to house them. We just can't make them come here without. So the folks in Florida who didn't get hit were able to, they had planned for like almost like tent cities, so they helped send some of those resources up to the Carolinas so they could set up like a tent city to house the guys for a little while, so that, you know, temporary housing so that they could accommodate the people that were coming to help them, so. And this group helps facilitate a lot of that stuff by bringing at a very high level the, like, what are the needs and how can we get them to these places, you know?
Well, thank you for providing an update and thank you to our crews.
Yeah,
I mean, do you see more of a trend? Do we get called more often, given the?
Well, no, we've always been very responsive. I would say, you know, last year wasn't a bad year for hurricanes, but when we get called, we usually get dispatched. So our guys are pretty solid and they're well respected. And so we, you know, we do a good job when we're down there and they appreciate that. We've been participating in mutual aid since I got here, and I think, you know, everybody here sees it as a valuable service that we provide. Because, you know, there was one time after that microburst that came through Wakefield 5 or 6 years ago that we actually needed help from others. You know, we got clobbered in a very short period of time, and so we were able to take advantage of mutual aid. And so you have to give to receive. So we you know, we've always done that. So
Thank you. That's great. Commissioners' reports, does anyone?
I have two. So there's a group, a statewide commissioner group that formed last year, and they're continuing to do work this year. So just as a quick notice, and I can follow up after this, there's a webinar upcoming on October 24th from 7 to 8:30 about electric utilities and geothermal projects. So that's the next webinar. I think the next webinar after that will be sometime in the spring. So it sounds like they're headed toward having like 2 webinars a year, basically.
What's the name of the organization?
So the organization is the Massachusetts Light Commissioners Association. So much like there's, it's similar to like there's groups for basically municipal leaders in the state, but they don't include commissioners of light departments. So this is like the same thing, but for light departments. I'll follow up with more information on that as it comes out. And then the other thing is,
So what was the date?
sorry, October 24th.
Okay. Great. Thanks.
And then there's also, saw there's an interagency rate working group that is formed at the state level. There's, I sent you a quick email.
so I reached out, so Kate and Zoe have been involved,
Okay,
so.
so it's
from them.
about, discussing how to change electric rates as we head toward electrification. There's a whole website, so if you look up in quotes, interagency rate working group, I can send you the link after that, you know, later on. Up comes a page with all of the upcoming events. There have been, last month, there was a presentation on near-term rate, like mechanisms basically, and then there's a longer-term presentation that's coming up on the 28th of October. There's actually a Muni comment session on November 5th. So there's some dates coming up just to be aware of. It seems interesting, like it dovetails nicely with our whole like rate design conversation. So I'm interested in kind of looking at the studies and seeing what's being discussed.
Yeah, there seems like there could be an affordability angle there that
Definitely. Yeah, they're definitely looking at energy burden and how to consider affordability and any kind of rate design change.
Different working group, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh.
There's an affordability docket that is open.
Oh, well, the affordability is mentioned in this one too. I think it's, yes.
I bet, yeah.
It's multiple things going on at once.
The problem is they just keep adding layers of things that need to be paid for without reducing the number of people that can pay for them.
Yeah. Zoe and who else from MWIC is
Zoe and Kate, or
Kate.
I sent them an email. She gave me just a little bit of summary of what's happened so far.
Okay. Cause it seems like I just quickly skimmed the website, seems like municipalities, developers, and then, there's a third group, policy or advocacy groups,
Consumer and
Or
advocacy
consumer.
groups, yeah.
all have equal opportunity to participate, so that's great. Any other announcements or reports?
Nope.
Do we, yes. While we're on this topic, do we have, any updates on the need pool GIS hourly Rex rule changes?
Yeah, so Matt reported on that last month. It did pass. The next day was the vote and it did pass. Many of the munis that were requested to comment voted no, but the muni vote didn't end up mattering. There were other constituencies, so the vote actually did pass. The MWIC vote ended up being an abstention because they didn't have a quorum of their body that they represented to vote yes. So they ended up abstaining, but there were 17 munis that voted no. But it ultimately ended up passing. The feedback was depending on it's still voluntary right now, and it could take up to 18 months to implement depending on what groups and what software and all that stuff, so.
Okay. All right. Thanks for the update. Do we have, a town council liaison appointed? Okay, I think it would be helpful should we knock on their door or
Yeah,
would you like me to reach out?
I can, I'll ask.
Okay. Considering, I don't know if there's gonna be a town meeting in November, maybe, I don't know if there's anything that we can participate in or support. Any members of the public in attendance?
No,
No.
those are
Okay.
all staff.
Okay, great. So we'll turn it over to Tom for the secretary's report.
All right. Over to the approval of the September 4th minutes. I know we have a electronic and paper copy of the clean version that included your edits. Are there any other edits or changes to this copy here?
I don't have any other changes.
Okay,
I don't either.
all right. What do we want to call this?
Revised.
Revised, all right. All right, I will make a motion to approve the revised September 4th, 2024 minutes.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Doug Butler is the liaison.
Oh, he is.
Yeah.
Who is?
Doug Butler.
Oh, it's the liaison, good.
Yeah, I just looked it up.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, well,
I'll ask Sherry if there's a way to reach out to him and volunteer, but he can come by anytime.
Okay, great.
he's right by you too. You guys
Does he?
can just meet for lunch.
Does
He's
he-
the next street over.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Is he,
he's on White Ave, the corner of White
Oh,
Ave
really?
and Main Street, that one that faces the lake.
oh, okay.
Yeah. Knock
Okay,
on his door.
all right, I'll go knock on his door. Okay, so next we'll turn to project updates.
I'll just leave a lot of stuff going. So from one of the projects we updated on was the cable placement between BB and Wakefield Ave. We did more than half of it in July and August. We got it back up and running. This fall, we are gonna do the section from Wakefield Ave to where we left off. And then a couple more sections beyond that, basically get rid of all the lead that's in that line. So there'll be a little more expenditure this year. this is all part of a capital project that we had originally planned for next year, so we had to bring some of that spending back into this year. So that'll end up changing some of the stuff that we didn't spend capital on this year, as I updated last month. So there'll be a little more capital expenditure this year on that cable project. And we'll reduce the amount of work we plan to do next year on that job. So
Does
that
require any, street fencing, or is that all just?
through existing dock.
Yeah.
Yeah, we haven't had any over the years. So there's actually 4 lines that run from BB to Wakefield Ave. 2 were replaced within the past 15 years, since we did one, and then a couple of years later, we did another. We still had 2 to replace. That's why you put those in the capital project. We had a cable failure on one of them, so we've done a little more than half of it so far. We're gonna do another 25% this year. We'll still have 25% to do next year. But with the work we're gonna do this fall, we'll get rid of all the old lead cables, so it'll just be some older EPR that will replace the part. And so that's kind of it's a semi-big adjustment because the cable itself is pretty expensive, so that's why I just wanted to make note of it, because it is a rather large adjustment to capital spending. The energy park is moving along well. I think we finished a lot of the initial site clearing. We're getting ready to go out to bid for the site work itself. Dave, anything else that's hot right now?
No, we've,
A lot of equipment ordering.
Yep, the conduit work has been just about completed on Hemlock. So we have a little portion of the conduit that has to be done going to the Northeast Metro Tech. But we're tied into the high school conduit. So that's done. Notified Verizon for some work that we have to do on Hemlock to get them ready. As like Pete said, we're going out to bid with for the energy park site itself for the site work, which would include the foundations for the buildings, ground grid, the fencing, to get it ready to accept the deliveries of the equipment as it is being delivered. It'll be able to go right on the foundations, switchgear. And dealing with all the vendors on the submittals for, you know, the switchgear and the generator and the switches too that we purchased. So there's been a lot of activity, you know, the upfront and, you know, so we'll start to see some site work being done in the fall and the winter months. And then the batteries, working with the battery vendor on the schedule, that will be done in the spring. They've ordered the battery equipment, so there's no lead time issues with that. And that the plan is to have the battery in service up and running on a temporary connection to the grid before the summer peak. And everybody's on board with that. So there's no issues right now. We have lead time issues on some couple switches, believe it or not, that I would never expect there to be a problem with. But we're managing that and we have a workaround. So everything's going okay.
And later in the agenda, we have the funding authorization. So the way we plan to fund our capital portion of this is through the AMWEC pool loan program, which is basically more like a construction loan. And then once we finish all our spending, then we'll term it out. So the authorization that'll be asked for later in the meeting is for me to be authorized to execute the pool loan agreement. And well, the good part about the pool loan is that we only have to basically pay for the money that we take. It's just like a construction loan if you're building a house. So we're gonna take some money in the end of this year. We'll take some more money in 25 and then more. And once we've completed it, but we don't have to take more than we actually need. So we'll authorize up to a certain amount, but doesn't mean we're taking a full 7 million or whatever. We will take only what we need, and then we'll term out only the portion that we actually need.
Do we know what the length of term, or is that determined at the time where?
Once we term it out, right now, it's just it's an interest only loan. We pay the interest for the short term. It is part of the construction loan.
Do we typically take it for 60 months, 72 months, or?
The short term stuff is as long as until the project's done.
No, I was talking about like.
Oh, no, this will be like a 20-year loan.
20-year, okay.
15 or a 20-year.
Okay.
Because it's a capital asset, so that'll be, I think our substation was Was our substation originally 15 years, Mark?
Yeah, so the beauty of it is we, Tom, just to answer the question real quick, is we have the ability to kind of tailor it to whatever we feel comfortable with paying back up to the life of the equipment, which in this case would be 2025. I don't see us going 25 years on it. I mean, best case scenario is if it is a 20-year asset, we can pull it down to 15 years or something like that. So whatever we feel comfortable with on the debt services, we can kind of manage that to our needs.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, thank you.
And one of the good things about this project is that we originally talked about the total asset cost, including if we had to pay cash for everything. But the reality is we knew all along that we were gonna do a shared savings, more or less lease for the battery. And we're probably gonna do like a lease model for the solar panels. So even though the original total capital cost of the project might be over 13 million, the reality is a lot of those things are gonna be termed out differently, so the capital spending is gonna be much less.
Or, okay.
And so we'll get to that under new business. And then in terms of other big projects, I don't know if people have driven by or looked at, the head of the lake is flying. That project, I think they had said, I think they're way ahead of schedule.
Yeah, right along.
They are flying.
Yeah.
You know, and so that they built the garage and 2 large buildings in less than 3 months.
What's the station on Salem Street? Which one is that? Is it BB or like?
That's Waller.
That's Wallace.
Why are the lights on at nighttime there? Because it just, to me, the tracks,
Well, the yard lights are on.
the yard lights,
The yard lights?
yeah, multiple days in a row.
Oh,
They were on or they weren't on?
They
were.
Oh,
No, they shouldn't be on, so.
we'll look at that.
Yeah, well, yeah, there's an override, there's a switch inside, so if we have it on
It
position.
might have been there running the generator and forgot to shut it off.
Yeah,
Maybe, yeah.
it could have
It's just, I don't know, it might attract
Yeah,
visibility to
Yeah,
people that we don't want it.
yeah, I'll have them check that.
On the highway, you can see from the off frame.
Yeah, right, yeah. Yeah, well, I'll have them look at that. Thank you.
Okay. Any other updates? Not, I do have a question. How did the gas main replacement project, the ground breaking go
it
and,
went very well.
Yeah.
Tom and Jack were there. We had a big sign.
yeah,
Very big sign. I have a picture of the side.
Yeah, it was a very big sign. No, it went very well. There was somebody from PHMSA that was there, a senior level person. And the people that we worked with from their side were incredible. They were really great people to work with. It made, the grant is gonna be, managing a grant, as you know, is a lot of work and a lot of administrative stuff. But they've been really, really good to work with. We put through a relatively small invoice just to kind of test the process to see, make sure we were doing it right and submitting the invoice and getting paid for it. And they were great to work with and it went very well. So
good.
we know that there is the ability to get money from this grant, so. And,
Success.
yeah,
So that will that eliminate
the cast iron
all the cast iron on the system
by the end of the
by
year.
in, so, okay,
That cast iron will be retired by the end of the year.
okay.
Now, and as part of this project, there's other bare steel pipe that's being replaced. And we will be finishing all our pipe on Water Street as part of this, so. When this is done, I don't know the cast iron gone, but we'll be down to one main thoroughfare in Wakefield that's still, basically from Green Street to the Melrose line on Main Street, there's the last major roadway that we have older gas piping on. There's a lot of places, obviously, that we have side streets and interconnects and all that stuff. But coming up, and you'll see in the capital budget when we present it next month. Within the next 2 years, our hope is to eliminate that last piece of major thoroughfare, and then we'll be down to interconnections.
Does the replacement of the cast iron, is it just the cast iron that needs to be inspected daily during the winter? So once that's
Winter
done,
patrol, yeah.
we won't need winter patrol.
We won't need to do winter patrol.
What kind of is there any cost savings? Or
Not
is there
really.
Because it's
So
just,
we used to pay a third party for it, and then we were able to get
Yeah.
the sniffers on the trucks. And so we would do it ourselves.
okay, so,
So it's not really significant. We had already paid for those things, so there's not gonna be a significant savings with that. Other than maybe a little bit of time, but it's just it's a liability that we've removed.
yeah, that's more the liability.
Will the number of, class 3 leaks be
With this. project,
removed with this project?
We will
Or
we'll be reducing
eliminate?
a few.
Okay.
There's, within this project area, there are a few more leaks that'll go away.
Okay.
One by my house.
Do you think we'll be the first gas company in the state to have?
Berkshire is actually claims to be all plastic.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah.
They don't even have bare steel anymore?
No, there's one in the state that already supposedly has replaced their whole system.
Wow.
So, but again, if they replace I'm not sure if they have like, plastic stubs to steel services or how they did it or whatever, but
Yeah.
we won't be the first. So, but it's still, we're in pretty good shape.
Wow. Will we be the largest?
No. Well, actually, yeah, no, they're larger than us, I think.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Well, still kudos.
Yeah.
Yes.
Should,
We'll be the first muni. How's that?
Okay.
Yeah.
does everybody in the company get a piece of the last chunk?
Yeah, actually, we should try to save it. Yeah.
Should put that in,
Or to go with the plaque?
Yeah.
yeah, to go with the plaque, but the resin epoxy
Yeah.
is, put it up on the.
Dipped in
Wall
gold
somewhere.
paint.
Believe it or not, the cast has been more reliable than the bare steel. In the winter, they get concerned about where the connections are, where the bells are, and that's what cracks. But we've been pretty lucky with that. In my 18 years here, I've only had 2 that we've had cracked bells. So we've been pretty lucky with that. We've had much more places where bare steel has leaked than we've had issues with cast iron. But it's the older pipe, and eliminating it is huge.
Great. I have just one more question about the new gas connections, new services on the system. So I know in July there were 2 and 1 in August. Are those residential or commercial?
No, they're all residential.
Okay.
So usually if it's single family home, that's usually either on a route that we're working on, or if it's new construction, they'll do all the work in terms of the trenching. We'll put the pipe in for them and then we'll tie it in. So
Okay.
very limited exposure on our side, unless again, if it's on a route that we're working and they've been on the list.
When those come in, do we do any sort of consultants around alternative than connecting to the gas system, or is it just the application's in and we just go ahead and do it?
I mean, I'll limit them up. We make them aware of the programs that we have, but I mean, if it's an existing single family home, they've been on the list for a while, so we've,
Let's go ahead. Makes sense. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So next on the agenda, community solar program update.
Yeah, so I got confirmation just today from Matt and Michelle Chase, and they can both make it. And they thought that the time that you suggested, Pete, 4 o'clock in the afternoon would be better than doing it in the daytime. I thought it'd be better. I thought it'd be better for them to do it in the daytime and better for us, but they prefer it after when school gets out. So October 23rd was one of the dates you throw out that would work for you. And that's what the families agreed to. So October 23rd, 4 PM. And Ken doesn't want to do it at Brightview. He wants to come here. So
Oh.
we'll do it here.
That's great.
October.
Awesome.
I thought Maddie was teaching, so I didn't think you would want to leave school early.
Yeah. I'm not even sure where he is right now working, but and then a couple of the grandchildren are away in college, so they're not gonna come anyway, so just work out that way.
4 PM.
4 PM. Yeah, so if you could talk to Ann and just
Yeah.
make sure she orders the plaque and
Yeah, we're working on it.
great.
Who are we inviting from like other?
Well, I invite the dignitaries in town. like
Dignitaries and,
Donald and Kate
yeah,
and kids.
okay.
Yeah,
That's-
and then at 4 o'clock, any employees are gonna be able to hang out too if they wanna be there for.
Fortunately, I'll be away.
Oh, you will?
So I won't be able to
Bummer.
go, but that's, it's okay.
Oh, well,
I'll take a video, you can take a video.
okay.
Great. I'm glad that finally is happening.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
He
yeah.
must be feeling better and he must be excited to come.
I think he is, yeah.
Okay, next item on the agenda, WMGLD deposits and fees, and I believe Olivia will be presenting.
Welcome, Olivia.
Hi.
Welcome.
I'm Olivia. I don't think I've met everyone. But I will share my screen with you. Let me see.
So Olivia joined us as a summer student several years ago, and she did win our cornhole tournament 2 years in a row.
Wow.
That's pretty prestigious.
You know, I try. All right.
Tells you what type of college life she had.
I have to be fair to Olivia. She won the first time before she was even in college. So.
Yep. Okay, so starting off with the security deposits. So we do require security deposits of all renters, not required of property owners. The deposit is $250 for electricity. There is a $400 deposit if a property has gas or electric heat. So either $250 or $400. For commercial deposits, a deposit is required of all commercial tenants. The same policy applies if a space is under the same name as the business going in, that they're the owner, then there's no deposit required. And that deposit is based off of an estimated 3-month average, and those do all get approved by management.
Olivia, could you move your video box?
Oh,
It's
I'm
blocking
sorry.
it, yeah.
Move it off. There we go. Sorry about that.
There you go. Thank you.
Yeah, so this is taking a look at the comparisons between our deposits and just a few other municipals. Our Summer Help Anthony did a deep dive into all of the data from many different municipals, so obviously too much to include, but we do fall in the middle. As you can see, Taunton charges $400 and $250 as well. And same with Mansfield. South Hadley does charge a little bit less if it's only electric, and Peabody charges a little bit less for only electric, but they do all charge $400 besides Mansfield for the gas or electric heat. Some of the other municipals take a 3-month average. So we did take this data from our large apartment buildings to see what it would be if we used a 3-month average. So if it was electricity and gas heat, that would be roughly $385 for the deposit. If it was electricity and electric heat, it would be roughly $430, and just electricity, no heating, would be about $360. And I would say that the majority of municipals do use a 3-month estimated average for commercial accounts. There were a few that don't require them. However, most use the 3-month average as we do. So now getting into our fees, we have standard fees. So new gas service is $1,000, a new electric service $100, temporary electric $100, return check $25. If a gas service call comes in during business hours, there's $75 charge for that. If it's after hours, it's $150 charge, and that is the base fee. If parts need to be replaced, there is a charge for that, and there is no charge for an odor of gas call. And then the last fee is a reconnect fee for a shut off after non-payment, and that's a $50 reconnect fee. So looking at our fees compared to other municipals, I would say we fall fairly in the middle. Again, this was all data that was pulled by Anthony. And other municipals who provide gas, they don't specify any of their gas fees, nor do they specify their gas service charges. However, if another municipal goes out to turn the electric back on after non-payment, there is a fee for that, as you can see, $50 or $135. And some do go back out to charge after hours, but we do not do that. Other than that, temporary service, anywhere from $100 to $500. They all do vary in that sense. And then the return checks, every municipal falls anywhere between $25 and $30. And does anyone have any questions?
Why do you think gas fees are not specified anywhere?
I am not sure. We could not find that data, nor was he able to get it from the other municipals. But we can definitely look into that and maybe try to reach out again to find out that information. I know obviously there are limited municipals who offer gas.
Well, that's true, yeah.
Is the residential 3 month is that a 3 month average of the unit, or is that a 3 month average collectively of all?
My guess would be the places that charge that, it would be of the unit.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
and
you
if
would
they don't have that, they would probably fall back on some kind of average of the
Okay.
building.
So
Yeah, a lot of the municipals who do the 3 month average, they say a lot of them are based off of the previous tenant.
okay, so it's on
Okay.
a per building basis, so I'm assuming that would be a little bit more administrative burden than just having a flat fee if we were to have to do a 3 month average for each building as a new request for service comes in.
Unless you have the records,
Yeah.
right? From the
Okay.
previous tenant.
Right.
Yeah, I think it would be a bit more work, but I think it's also important to remember that each tenant is different. Just because it's a 1-bedroom unit doesn't mean there aren't 2 people living in there, which they may use more than a single person would. So it can be kind of hard to judge based off of that.
And this all came, I think there was a question a couple months ago about deposits and fees and stuff, so we did, Anthony and Olivia did a great job on it, kind of doing a deep dive into the data and really pulled everybody, so I think what we found from our survey is that we're in line, and we haven't really adjusted these fees in over 10 years, so.
Let me just ask, so like what's the basis for selecting these particular utilities? On the last slide, like out of all the utilities, what one?
Size, no, size, number of meters, I think. So, I mean, we didn't really want to go with a, like a Chester or something, a very, very small utility or, so we just apples to apples type comparison.
Okay.
As best we could.
Yeah.
Are all of these, our fees posted publicly on either the forms or our website?
Either the
Including
form
gas?
builder, yeah.
Okay. So these.
If there's an application for gas service, it's investigated by Jimmy directly, and he's talking one-on-one with whatever customer.
But I mean, like the service calls and various things like that.
Yeah,
Okay.
we make those, we've put it's important to remind people each year, so we try to put something out there each year, to let them know.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for putting that together.
Very helpful.
Thank you.
Livy's also gonna, she did a thorough analysis of the website and clean up a lot of stuff that on our existing site that needed some fixing, some cleanup. So she and Joe did a ton of work on that. And now she's gonna head up an effort to do that, solicit feedback on the website as a whole for recommendations going forward.
Oh, great.
So I'm looking at like the new gas service. I don't see where we state a about $1,000 minimum, okay.
Yeah.
I do think it might be helpful to just have something very similar on our website as Jen, I think, was alluding to. Where all these fees, like on page 36, are just listed in one area for quick and easy consumption.
So we could probably just kind of take that slide that Olivia put together and put it on the rates page, because like the rates page has all the rates and.
Or even under the customer service, there's the customer service. And there's service application forms, maybe just another link there that says, service fees or, however we want to label it.
Yep.
Yeah, and wherever we put the gas fees, it should be really clear that there's no fee for odor. Like calls to report odor, yeah,
Yeah,
so that people don't shy away from
Calling.
calling.
that's a good point.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
definitely stress that.
Okay. So, I don't know, does it make sense to do this exercise maybe every few years or something?
Yeah,
Just to
or if
make
we-
sure that we're in
Yeah,
line with other,
I would say, yeah, I mean, I think it'd be more important if we reevaluate and we want to increase them,
Yeah.
then we'll do right now, we're sitting on 10-year-old fees and we're we're in market, so unless we change them, it's probably, I don't think we're gonna fall out of market. I don't think
Yeah.
anybody's going down.
no,
Well, that's the question, is if like no one ever updates their fees, then we stay in market, but it doesn't really reflect
Oh, it definitely doesn't reflect,
like current cost of business, right?
Right,
So
yeah.
that could be a challenge, certainly.
I guess ask the question a different way, if and when we have an issue that we need to keep the deposits, does the deposit generally cover the services owed that are
what would you say the percentage of bad debt market, I mean, would that tie directly back? So when they have a deposit with us, when we return them, we take the last month's bill out, so we go work against the deposit anyway, and so they get refunded the balance.
the balance after their last?
Yeah.
But so I guess for bad debt, do the fees generally cover the bad debt? Like how far apart are we?
I don't think we're that.
We have, I mean, we do not have an exorbitant amount of I can go on record and say that we do not have, at this time, Tom, I guess, at this time, we do not have a bad debt problem. 10 to 12 grand a year, that's the run rate right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then,
So that means those fees are working. So
Yeah.
every week in the warrant, if you see the warrant, the top half is all the refunds. And
Yeah.
so those refunds are basically deposits and they all vary because the last bill varies. So that's why, the check back to Joe is gonna be a different number than the next one. But that first set of things on the warrant are all those refunds.
And
Right.
you gotta remember too, Tom, like, so the data slice or the population slice of the 20,000 meters that we have, we're talking about, tenants, non-owners, because the owners of the units, we don't take deposits because we can lien them. So those, as far as the bad debt discussion, we like remove that from the bad debt discussion, the unit owners, you know what I mean? And I want to say it's a third versus two-thirds owners versus a third non-owners. As far as that's the slice of the population that we're dealing with. So.
okay. Thank you.
okay, thank you so much. Okay, so now we're going to turn to Joe for the grant overview discussion.
Joe is in Seattle right now. You still in
Wow.
Seattle, Joe?
What's that?
You're still in Seattle, right?
Yep, I'm still in Seattle.
He's at an APPA conference learning accounting stuff.
Oh, wow.
I think it's probably got a better title than that, but I'll just go with accounting stuff.
Yeah, it's the APPA Fall Institute. So there's accounting track, there's an engineering track, leadership track and things like that. But yeah, been doing the accounting track.
And Abdir is out there doing the engineering track.
Oh, wow.
Nice, excellent.
So how long are you out there for?
I'm actually flying back tomorrow morning. So I've been here since the weekend, so.
Great.
Great.
So this is an early meeting for you.
Yeah, it is. It's like, what, 4:15? So still time to, grab some dinner after. I think Abdir is gonna take me to, there's a Moroccan authentic restaurant, so I'm gonna try some new food, I think, later, so.
Awesome.
Great.
Well, you'll have to update us on what you learn.
I will. All right. So I think you all have like the blown up version. I think if I try to share it, I mean, I can still share it, but I think if I do share it, it's not gonna be able to see it as well. But kind of in the board package there's 3 different charts, the federal grants, state grants, and private grants. And what I tried to do was, there's 2 different categories, the recently received and applied, so things that we've either received in the last couple of years or we're still waiting on. And then also the current and upcoming, so things that we're looking at that we may apply for that may be related to our operations, something we may look at applying for. So I can just kind of give a quick run through of some of the bigger items. I mean, the grants we've received, I think we know a lot of those ones. Obviously, the gas grant, the FY22 one, the one that we just had the groundbreaking for. We applied for the GRIP grant under 2 different topic areas. This was back in the spring. So one of the topic areas is innovation partnerships. So this was an application, actually rather, yeah, innovation partnerships. And this was an application we did with 10 other municipalities. It was a big conglomerate, and it was probably, I think it was $150 million combined between all the 10 municipalities, and this was for topic area 3. They've actually released who received those grants, and our group did not receive a grant. And what we had applied for, among other things, was the energy park, as well as a few potential solar projects with battery storage on housing authority buildings. So I think the feedback from that was it wasn't a focused enough application, as well as some of the projects that they did actually fund. I think there was only 8 of them, 8 or 9 of these projects. I mean, they were larger in scope than even we had, and ours was more segmented. Everyone had different projects within those municipalities. So the ones that did actually get funded, and there's a list of them actually online, were more, I think it was more like one of them was extending transmission lines and things like that. It was this large scale kind of together projects, instead of a bunch of smaller segmented projects that do have some related items, but are more focused on each individual utility. So we're still waiting for with that GRIP grant topic area 1, we also applied for upgrading some underground cable. And this one we went with a couple utilities, 2 of which were in Vermont, and we haven't heard back from that grant yet. And what we requested for this was about 8 million, I think would be the allocation that we would get of a total $21 million application for that. So we're still waiting back to hear about that. It shouldn't be too much longer, I wouldn't think, because they've already come back with topic area 3. So we'd expect them to kind of give us an answer fall of 2024. The other thing is we applied again for the gas grant, the 2024 version. We applied for that again for certain pieces of town. And we're waiting to hear back from that as well, which should happen in the next couple of months. So our grant specialist for the one that we received, she's actually one of the people who reviews the applications. And when she came out for the groundbreaking, she kind of said that it would be in the next month or two that we'd hear back from that. So we can see that one. I think we requested about 4 million for that one.
Joe, for topic area number 3, do you think we would have done better had we applied just as ourselves for the energy park being, more focused versus being in the conglomerate of other entities there? Or
So
would that have been even potentially worse since it's, even a smaller chunk?
So that's a good question, and it's something that actually will be relevant for the state grant side of things. So on the federal large scale side, I would say no. I think we wouldn't have had a chance by ourselves either. If you look at some of these projects, but I think some of the money that's included in the overarching program it's been funneled through to Massachusetts on the state side through Mass CEC, who released a separate grant for which we're actually wrapping up an application this week, which includes some energy park expenses and things. So it is a good question. I think we'll have a lot better of a shot to get kind of the state version of this grant.
Okay, thank you.
The grant that we're applying for is focused on the infrastructure leading into the energy park, and as well as circuit upgrades that in that area and switching. So it's Joe and Dave have been working on this for a while, and actually the state reps have been supportive. They've signed letters of support. Our unions have signed letters of support. So hopefully they put a lot of work in, so hopefully it goes well. So
yeah, and also speaking to that too is, we're a sponsor for the Beneficial Electric League, and so they're a nonprofit that helps utilities try to electrify and helps small utilities to apply for these grants. And so Alex Hoffman over there, who's got plenty of utility experience, APPA, NEPA, he's kind of really been the leader in the forefront. I mean, we're giving him all the information and we're helping him kind of put it all together, but he's got a lot of experience in both applying for and winning grants. So he's doing a really good job. We've met with him plenty of times over the last month, and we're really appreciating his expertise in trying to do this. But yeah, as far as ones that are upcoming, or current or upcoming that we're looking at, and I don't know at what point if we'll apply for these or what have you, but it's ones we're trying to keep tabs on. Is the Clean Heavy Duty Vehicle Grant Program. So thing with this is it's for large vehicles that are all electric. So kind of like bucket trucks, things like that. I think it's a little too early, I think, whereas the price is still pretty significant as far as the difference between even the hybrid versus the all electric. I mean, and the reliability, like, do we want to be the first ones or the first couple people to use kind of the all electric large fleet vehicles? I think we've kind of want to wait and see it kind of come down in price and go up in reliability, get some data on it, talk to people who actually have put these all electric fleet vehicles into their fleet before we even go after some of these, and then potentially go after grants that are related to those.
right now, if you look at the capital costs, our next bucket's going to be about 450 grand, and an all electric version will be in the $700,000 range.
Wow.
So that's
substantial.
Yeah. So that's the difference, right? None of that, but if we had an all electric fleet, we would not be going to Georgia to help anybody out. So
that's hybrid versus EV.
no, that would be an all electric. Right now, the hybrid.
Right now, it's just the boom, right?
Right, it's a boom in the heating and cooling
And heating
system,
and
which is
cooling.
huge. So we have so in our spec going forward, we are making a requirement that they be hybrids. So our next, the first one we bought was an all, Sarah will talk about this in her presentation. I'm stealing your presentation, Sarah.
If you're stealing your thunder.
Sorry, I was just wondering,
She'll go over
really
that.
specific, the 450 is what
Honestly,
again?
We know this is my favorite time of the year, so Pete, you can do the whole thing. You can do all 7
She'll
sections.
go over it, but the 450 is approximately the cost of the hybrid, full-size
Okay,
bucket.
that was my
But
question.
if you wanted, we did get a demo of an all-electric bucket and it was at the time, it was in the neighborhood of 700,000.
Okay, thank you. I just want to clear.
And the guy that brought it here had to go to the head of lake to charge to go back. I'm not kidding.
That's funny.
How many miles was that?
I don't know where he came from, but the fact is, he didn't come from another state, so.
Yeah, so I think there'll be multiple rounds of this. So keeping tabs on when the next one's open and then the one after that, and maybe, at some point, if there's still funds available. I mean, I think it's supposed to be available for quite some time. I guess we don't know politically how everything falls. But it's definitely something we're still keeping an eye on. And then similarly, the DERA grant, the Diesel Emissions Reduction Act, I think for us, pretty much the only thing that would apply for this would be vehicles as well. I think they can go hand in hand. I'm not sure how exactly they do. I'm not sure if you can use both of them. And there's different requirements, slightly different requirements for either one. This one might be, there's some minor differences between the two, and I think it'll be available again. This is one that's an annual one that's available. So the next one is not really related to us per se, but it's something to keep tabs on, I think, considering all the work we do with the schools, which is clean bus planning. What was that?
Oh, it's just agreeing with you. Yeah, something we
Okay,
should
all right.
keep tabs on.
I didn't know if yeah, so I think for this, it's just good to keep tabs on one of certain grants that might be related to, school electrification improvements and things like that. And then, bring them to the attention of the school at some point, and then they can decide, what they want to do with them. Again, maybe it's too early for them. Maybe they, there's probably a lot of infrastructure that goes into this type of program. But definitely something.
I just have a question. Where is our school bus depot for Wakefield?
There are some buses kept in Wakefield.
Yeah,
So
where are
I
they?
don't know if it's the entire fleet or
We contract out for the
service, but I think.
service, and then there's, I think some of the smaller Wakefield buses are like stored between Woodville and the high school.
Okay,
Which are not the full length buses, they're, I don't know, like
Yeah,
2/3,
smaller.
the
Yeah.
smaller. So I don't know that we have a full bus fleet.
I think I've seen one there.
Yeah.
Regularly.
okay.
Yeah. It's not a lot.
I only ask because, if, the town was interested in pursuing some of the electrifying their buses, we would want to know so that we make sure that we have the infrastructure there to be able to, support. And
The key is that, like I said, it's a third-party contractor, but again, I think Joe keeps them informed that if it was a third-party contractor, which I don't believe is in Wakefield, we would want to work with them to charge in Wakefield because our cost would be significantly lower than
Yeah,
somebody else.
We'd almost want more of an economic development of attracting a bus company to locate in Wakefield, right?
And then give us the fuel cost discount.
Yes. I'll also work to do the, V2G.
Yeah.
And do the virtual power plant.
that was something that we discussed a couple meetings ago about looking into the Audubon Road area.
That's,
for
if we're gonna
economic
put that
development.
in Wakefield, it would most likely be,
Yeah,
that would be the most likely location to house a company like that.
yeah.
And we definitely have the capacity in that side of town to charge a fleet of buses.
Yeah,
There have been questions about buses at the ESC meeting, so I can pass that along, that one along.
Yeah, and I think this one, it's kind of a planning grant,
Yeah.
which could be pretty helpful. You know, you don't have to, it's not like the purchasing of it,
Mhm.
but then, I mean, then you could potentially go up, and I haven't, I don't know exactly, which vehicles you can do for the clean, heavy duty vehicles, but you could potentially then, from whatever you find there, if clean heavy duty is still available, maybe there could be something to be had from going from the planning into potentially getting funding for that too. I just know that certain vehicles that we have could potentially be in the clean heavy duty, so. But yeah, besides that one, the last one is the Inflation Reduction Act direct pay tax credit. So this is an interesting one. It's for non-tax paying entities. We can receive money back for certain clean energy implementations. So there's a lot of things. It's kind of a wide scope of things that they'll potentially give you money back for. And then one of the things that it is, it's at the end of the tax year that you complete whatever project or thing that you're doing, then you kind of try to claim that, and then they'll give you money towards up to, I think it's up to like 70%, or I'm sorry, it's up to like 40-50% of the project, but reasonably there's certain adder factors that we wouldn't qualify for. Realistically, we could get potentially 30% back. So it starts at a 5% base rate. And then if you meet prevailing wage, it jumps you all the way up to 30% for the project. And one of the things, you have to own whatever project that it is. My only fear with this is the first tax year that this was offered was actually in 2023. And I know of a couple contacts of other utilities who have applied for this tax credit for the prior year for work that they've done. And they haven't received the credit yet. So I think it's something that, keeping up with those contacts to see how this flows through, how quickly it comes through, and if they get that full 30%. Some people talk about it like it's a guarantee when you're trying to do some of these projects, but not until until we see it come through do I think we should consider it something that's a definite. So it's for things that you own. So if you lease if you lease something, you wouldn't qualify for this. So that's where it's important to know how reliable that 30% is when we're potentially making decisions about whether to lease or own things. And I don't think that we should kind of bank on that as far as something that we can do unless we know it's a surefire and we see that it's been proven that it's come through. I think that's our position on that, but it's something that I've been trying to follow closely ever since they announced it over a year ago.
Joe, would our battery storage be eligible? Would that be considered eligible as a clean energy project or any of the energy park?
The battery would not be eligible because we're not gonna own it, but for the company that does own it, my guess is they are banking on, because there's also, this is the version that's for the non-profit, non-paying, tax paying entity. But there's also a similar one, on the flip side for a tax paying entity too. So if you own it, then you can claim that. So I would say the technology, yes, I believe that would be, fall under the category, but.
Yeah, and
With the-
so on the energy park, we're doing a shared savings kind of lease project with them.
Yeah, okay.
Would the community solar qualify?
I was thinking the Galvin solar, the roof.
Now my guess is that's something that the town is aware of. I think we had a discussion with Mike McLean months ago, and I think that was something that was mentioned. And that when we brought up our potential concerns with that as well, to say, well, we haven't seen anybody actually receive the 30% yet. So hopefully that'll, we'll see that come through. And that's kind of something that's true.
Well, one thing that I learned about the IRA, or sorry, IRA, tax rebates, is that prevailing wages, if a contractor pays their prevailing wages, then like you said, they get a boost in the adder or the refund. But then also, if the contractor has some sort of pre-apprenticeship program, they get an extra adder for that as well. And, I was talking with somebody at the Mass Building Trade Unions, and they said that they have contractors in their union that, pay prevailing wages and have apprenticeship programs, but people don't know. And so they'll go with another contractor, and then at the end of the tax year, they'll miss out, they'll leave money on the table because they didn't know that if they had just gone with the other contractor, they would have had that benefit. So I don't
Yeah,
know if that's something that's come up.
Yeah, no, I think that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, there's that adder, and then there's like a brownfields, like if it's something, if it's a
Right.
location that, you're gonna spruce up, it needs cleaning, there's some kind of something like that. But yeah, I think one of the other things with the apprenticeship program, I think even further down into the weeds, I think, is a certain amount of hours on the project have to be for apprentices. Now, I don't know how that's written into the contract and things like that, and I don't know how deeply you check and how, what the process is for submitting that kind of stuff either. I mean, it would be on the contractor, you could have them sign a waiver that says, or in the bid, that could be part of it to say that, it has to meet these standards. But I think it goes even further than just the apprenticeship program too.
Okay, I see.
We could pass that information along to Mike if you want to, about the apprenticeship,
Yeah,
or whoever, or the
reason-
town council.
yeah, the reason it came up is because National Grid has, a list of contractors, for energy efficiency work. It's like performance, I can't remember what and, customers will just go to that list and just pick a contractor, because they think, it's been vetted by the, National Grid Energy Efficiency Team. And the Mass Building Trades Union was saying, how do you get on that list? We've been finding out that, people are just they're not even aware of this benefit of, getting the extra adder. So they wanted to get on that list, so,
Yeah, we should pass that info along
okay,
if you have insight into that.
okay, yeah, I do.
Or you think they're gonna go out to bid for it, so that would be something that they would want to know.
Okay, I will. All right,
Yeah, so I guess switching to the state side, and we've received a couple of the EVIP grants in the past, which is good. Also, we helped the town apply for the energy efficiency conservation block grant. So it came out of the energy audits of the two schools. And I believe they applied for the engineering and design of looking at heat pumps at the Dolbear School to replace the fossil fuel system that they have there. I think the maximum you could get for that topic area was 50,000. So my guess would be that they applied for the full 50 for that. So we gave them the energy audits to include in that package for that application. Not sure, I'll have to check back in with them to see if they, my guess is they haven't heard anything. I would think that they would have said something if they had, but maybe they have a feel for how long it would take to see what that response is.
what about the Woodville School? We did a detailed audit on,
They
Yep.
had to limit their focus, so they applied for just, I think it
Okay.
was just the Dolbear. We audited both schools. but they needed to focus, so
Okay.
they applied for the grant for the Dolbear.
Okay.
So I think briefly discussed, going down to the current and upcoming kind of section there. I discussed the 40101D, which is, it's like the GRIP grant, but it's like the Massachusetts kind of allocation for it. Mass CEC is running that program. And yeah, Dave and I have been working on submitting the last few documents for that grant to Beneficial Electric League. They're helping us apply for it. So my guess would be it'll be going out tomorrow. So we'll see. I think we're applying for, I think it's just about 3 million. I think that's where it is, maybe 3.5. I'd have to double check that again. But it's for some of the work related to the energy park, upgrades and things like that are associated with it. So we'll see. Where we have a better feeling about this one, I think, than the larger federal version, especially seeing the projects that they funded with the federal one. We weren't even, I don't even think we were really in the ballpark as far as in comparison to some of those other projects, just because it was on such a large scale. Whereas this one, because it's Massachusetts focused, I think we have a lot better of a shot to see some money. The other one I have listed is the green communities. So, we did the energy audits of the 2 schools. I know there was some other things that they had from previous, that they previously applied for that they may do with the green communities, but have that listed there. What else? There's also an interesting, it's a low and moderate income housing decarbonization grant through Massachusetts, and there's rolling deadlines for those things. So our thought for that is maybe working with the housing authority, in the near future, as far as looking at their buildings and seeing if there's something that, we could do together with them to take a look at some of the things that could be upgraded there. I mean, first we want to try to get the smart thermostats in. That's like kind of the pilot, so to speak. This is a lot bigger dollar amounts. I think, it's total of $50 million worth of funding over, I think it's like 5 or 6 years. So something to look at in the future. The next one is the Massachusetts Solar for All. We know how much is going to be available, but they still, to my knowledge, haven't released the guidelines for the program yet. And it's going to be focused to low income, I think, completely. And there needs to be a 20% savings on the utility bills for low income customers. That's kind of built into that program. Checking every week on that one just to see where that one falls, because there could be, maybe it's 0% interest loans, maybe it's community solar that's structured differently, that gives a more significant benefit to lower income customers because it'll be backed by a grant and things like that. So that's stuff that we're looking at. As well as the home efficiency rebates for municipal light plant. It's similar to the Solar for All, where we're waiting to see how it's all going to shake out, but they haven't given the full guidelines on the program and what it's going to shake out to be. So that's kind of it on the state side of things.
So on the low and moderate income housing decarb program,
Yep.
you mentioned you will be approaching the housing authority?
Yeah, I think so. And I've met with Maureen over there. I think she's the property manager. Talked to her a couple times when we were looking at the block grant for the town, the energy efficiency one. Wanted to check in to see if there were certain things that that maybe would qualify for that. But yeah, it's definitely something we're talking. Olivia and I are talking with her to see if there's if there's other things that that we can help with. Maybe we'll do energy audits of some of those buildings and see if anything comes up from those, and then this grant could potentially fund some of those things. I know they have a tight budget from talking with Maureen about improvements and things like that. So if they can get some grant funding for that would be pretty cool. So, yeah, that's something where, yeah, we've built a relationship with them. And, we're trying to let them know about this potential opportunity and see if there's something that kind of meets their needs.
Yeah, Olivia's been working on a couple ideas too, for like the renters themselves, so.
I think E&E, was it last year or maybe the year before? And I think it was Sterling used I don't know if it was this one or a grant similar to this for their housing authority to put thermal heat pumps in where they have the thermal storage. So where the connection to sorry, excuse me, got a frog. So during peak, the heat pump head had the ability to store heat or cool for a couple of hours. So at peak times, it would just use that stored cooling or heating, depending on what season, during peak. And so that they were able to, turn off the condensers, still cool the unit, and then after peak, recharge back up and normal operations. So there was I think he released like a press release on it because it was kind of.
Where was this? Where was this again?
I think it was through E&E, and I think it was Sterling. I have it somewhere in my email. There was a press release on it, so I just thought it was interesting. But it was it was joint between the utility and the housing authority that made that all come together, and it was grant funded to do that. So just kind of an idea out there of the things that potentially are possible with something like this.
Yeah, definitely something
A
that
great idea.
we'll look into.
And that's part of the role with, like I said, last month, with Olivia coming on board is kind of identify these like specialized projects with our larger customers that can help lead to some of the things like reducing gas peak and things like that that we need to do.
Yeah, some of these projects, especially if they're pilots, can be very expensive when you're talking about electrifying everything and heat pumps, even geothermal. And so if the housing authority has some budget for renovation, that could, that they could put towards the cost share for these projects, then it doesn't all have to be on the backs of, our customers. So if there might be an opportunity there with the housing authority.
As Joe was saying, I think
The budget is small.
My feeling is their budget is very tight over there, just as far as, because that was one of the first things, like, as we were discussing.
But even for renovation,
What's that?
I mean, are they going to do renovations at some point? I mean,
Yeah, I think they do annual renovations, but I think they do it on like a as needed basis, like, oh, this,
Okay.
this
I
is
think
now.
they're carrying a big capital
Oh,
budget. no.
okay,
They,
I mean,
typically those places, they'll replace the roof if they need to, and then other than that, it says people move out to clean out or redo the unit. There's minimal other capital budget.
okay.
It was Taunton, not Sterling.
I was surprised Sterling, you said Sterling.
Yeah.
I didn't rule it out, but Sterling's an MWEC company and Taunton's
Yeah.
E&E, so I was like.
oh. I think, did you guys lose them too?
Does that mean I don't have to present?
Around.
We can see you and hear you.
Oh,
Yeah,
nuts. Okay.
this happened last time too.
Yeah, I think it's all right, we
We can't see you.
Can't
The-
see
the
you
way
quite
that-
yet, but we can hear you.
It's Sterling on the camera.
Oh,
There we go.
Yeah, the cameras just has to be adjusted, but it's like it rebooted itself.
yeah, it does that. And Dave walked away, so.
Yeah.
Okay, I have, are we back? I have one more question. Well, two maybe quickly. So the HER is this need to be folded into our energy efficiency programs for next year?
I don't think we should do it for next year just because I don't think we have an idea of what they're gonna offer and then what the requirements are. I think that's like, I think it'd be hard to set kind of a budget or a rate for something that we don't know exactly how much would be supplemented by it. But once it's something that's available or we have a good idea of what it would be, I think it makes sense. I just like how we did it with I'm sure we did it with the solar back when we were getting some money from Massachusetts. We were able to offer, a larger rebate. And then we would only be on the hook for the, half of what the customer is actually getting for a rebate. So
Is this one of the ones that Zoe's watching too?
yep, yeah, this is the one that MWIC's keeping a close pulse on. So we'll definitely hear about those updates, I'm sure.
It just seems like it might actually come through at some point in 2025, so,
We'll keep an eye on it.
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely.
yeah. And then the last page, I didn't know what this was. Oh, this is APA, so,
This is the other category is like private.
okay, private, got it,
Yeah, so I mean,
got it.
yeah, so I just threw that in there because it doesn't fit into the other two buckets,
Okay.
obviously.
I see, yeah, I just wasn't sure what it was, so now I'm clear, okay.
Good. Thank you, Joe.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Joe, I hear that the round 3 GRIP funding opportunities probably will be released maybe in Q1.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
They're kicking it down? They just wanted to get
Through
those
the grapevine. Because I think they're just trying to get the negotiations done and award contracts signed for the ones that for round 2 first before they
Oh, yeah, that makes
round.
sense.
So there's still an opportunity.
Yep.
This is a great summary.
Yeah,
I wanted to just say thank you so much. Like this, I know this took a lot of work to put together and I
Yeah.
really appreciate it. It's
Yeah, I
helpful.
mean, and it wasn't, I can't take all the credit. Jalen, who's, we have a really good co-op summer help program, I think. I mean, Olivia and I were both summer help, but Jalen, she still works a little bit while she's at school. She looks at this stuff every week and she updates a different spreadsheet with way more, words and other things on that. And she's been an excellent help in trying to keep all that stuff at the forefront. So
Great, thank you so much. Okay. Now we'll turn to Sarah.
Great. I'm gonna share my screen also. Share here.
Sarah, what's behind you?
It's a Peloton that is not as used as much, a Peloton treadmill that's not used as much as it should be.
Can I ask a quick question? Are we formally moving the strategic planning update to after?
Oh,
Just wanted to ask.
I'm sorry.
No, it's
I think
okay.
out of order here.
Move it.
Why don't,
Yeah.
can I entertain a motion to move an agenda item out of order so that Sarah could present on the facilities and procurement department update?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Bye.
Okay, great.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate that more than you know. I'm just gonna go over, like I do each year, over a few topics over at the building and with our fleet, and our bids. To be fair, when I was writing this down, I actually was when you put it all down on a piece of paper, I realized how much we have done. So with our fleet, we kind of broke it down into different categories for our passenger vehicles here. We have transitioned over to whatever we could, but we currently have 4 plug-in hybrids, and a full EV Ford Lightning. So 4 out of our 6 are in some type of, progressive into the green. The next vehicle we're going to be doing for this passenger vehicle is the facility pickup, which we're looking at a plug-in hybrid. That way, if Paul Redmond, our electric superintendent, currently has the full EV, but in the case of a storm or something like that, he could always take our facility truck. So if we can't find something that works for us, we'll do another full EV Ford Lightning. But we're waiting a little bit on our gas Ford 250 just because that needs to be able to plow. So, but I mean, we've come a long way. So let's see. And that's a picture of Jimmy Brown's Hyundai Santa Fe. We look like a dealership. We have 4 of them now. So let's see. So our service
In terms of
van.
fuel saving on those, we're averaging about 500 or 600 gallons a year of savings over the so that whole class of vehicles was the SUV class of vehicles, and we were burning anywhere from 800 to 1,000 gallons a year on those, and we cut those down to between 300 and 400 gallons a year. So, and so we've got some data on those now, and so we have. Dave has one, I have one, Jimmy has one, and the substations have one. So we have 4 of this hybrid class of vehicle.
Awesome.
And then I'm going to move on to our service vans. We have 4 service vans. 3 are for our gas service and 1 is for our substation. The 2 gas vans are full EV, full electric. Our next service van that we're replacing is the substation service van. We're going for the same, a full EV. So that's actually what we're doing next. So we'll be down to 75% full EV on our service vans, which is great.
Have you found that prices have come down?
So it's funny, we haven't really had to look too much. We got very fortunate with some Hyundai Santa Fe's. That's why we kind of, pulled the trigger on them. I just started looking today for some vehicles. I do feel like they have come down a little bit. I just started looking today. So, and it also looks like the inventory might be a little bit better than it has been in the past 2 or 3 years. So I'm thinking it might be a little smoother of a purchase than it has been since the pandemic, because it's been we've been creative. I feel like it's like the Hunger Games. All these businesses are trying to find, vehicles. So we also, with our heavy duty vehicles, as you guys know, we have the 7 bucket trucks. We have the trouble truck, which is a plug-in hybrid. We have another on the way, which will be a 2024. It's going to be here in either the first or second quarter of 2025. They will be starting the build this fall. The same, we also had already ordered a dump truck. We shopped around for a different type of, hybrid or electric, but years ago they started it and then started to attempt to make them, and their infrastructure just isn't there for the dump trucks yet. So that's going to be a 2024, also coming to us in the first quarter of 2025. So then other than that, we have just 2, besides the bucket trucks, we just have 2 heavy duty gas vehicles. One is a box service van, and I forget what you guys call the other one, but one of them is being retired. We're not even going to replace it. So, but it seems like like I said, when I put all of these down on a piece of paper, it was kind of crazy to see how far we actually have come, and especially after the pandemic. So, what else? I'll move on. That's the trouble truck. Ralph, we call it Ralph's truck because he drives that, but that's truck 13, the trouble truck. And then with the facility, with maintenance, we finally installed our comical garage door, which is, I hate saying it, knock on wood, our garage door has worked fantastic. We had the inside of the building
You were just
repainted.
messing with me this morning, right?
Yeah, just, you know what? Just don't jinx it, Pete, okay? It's just you. The inside of the building has been repainted. We did most of it, but we want to do the inside of some of the actual garage where the fleet is. We need some time to get some stuff away from there, so we're gonna do that in 2025. But the big thing was our roof was completely taken care of. We actually didn't have too many repairs that needed to be done, but we had to work with our insurance company, with our roof warranty for the solar project. So a lot of people had to approve, saying that it was perfect to put on the solar. So we've had the solar on, we've had no issues, no leaks. You know, it's nice to know after, what's the building, 10, 11 years old, it was time to just make sure that everything was all set. And basically we're actually all caught up on all of our long-term bids and end dates too. So we don't really have anything coming up except for the short-term bids that they were talking about that we did for the PHMSA grant work, the energy park. Vinny and we just had a pre-bid meeting today for the wave traps for the National Grid project over at the BB station. So these are all just projects that are being done short-term throughout the year. And other than that, we had to show off Joe's new swag for the farmer's market for Joe and Olivia. Yep. One of the probably 11 dogs that we have come to work, and they're the only reason any of us ever come. Not to see you, Pete. But yeah, I think that, does anyone have any questions?
Dogs are a strategy, it works.
It is.
Is there two dogs in the picture? There. Tail. That is tail on the top right.
Yep, that's actually Tucker. That's Robin's dog. Yep, we got a whole slew.
Got a fleet of dogs.
Yeah,
I gotta tell you, it's the most wonderful thing ever.
Cool.
Of course, now I don't know how to get back to seeing you guys, but I think that's it.
Should say end screen show.
I had a couple of questions. Sorry, if I could, you said that the garage door is much more efficient. Do you mean energy efficient? What does it mean?
So it, for many different reasons, so it had reached its length, the door itself. It is a very large door. It's much bigger than the one on the side. Even comparable to the fire department and such, the door is very big. So the door that we ended up purchasing and installing, it has like a certain number of reps that it can do, and its efficiency is better than the one that we had before. It's much quieter. So
It's also much lighter.
Yes, it's much lighter. I just think that in 10 years, the doors have become, they better thought out. So, yeah, you can tell, you can barely hear it when it opens and closes, which is kind of crazy because before you would definitely hear it. It was heavy.
Why?
Being lighter, the motor consumes less energy to lift it up or put it down.
Oh, okay.
Exactly.
Like it's insulated or something like energy efficient in that respect.
It is insulated fiberglass as opposed to metal.
Yeah.
Wood, so it's much lighter, it goes up and down much faster, and it's a better quality. They've come a long way in the years since we built that door. Actually, we got a huge benefit because when we got the grant, we went out to Westfield to celebrate. So the state came out there to present us all with our fake checks. And it was while I was out there that I saw their doors were this style of door. So when I came back, I'm like, we need to look at this style of door because it's.
And he had taken pictures, and we specifically went to our local, who we use in Danvers or Middleton. It's always mixed up, but overhead door. And they specifically got that. It is a very large door, compared to, some of the other places. So, it's, and our big question was, I think Pete too, like even about keeping the heat in, because it is much lighter, things like that, the insulation of it. It's the same as it was before. They're just lighter.
And remind me what the reason was that it had to be replaced?
It was, the gears kept blocking
Yeah.
out.
We would have, it
Uh,
wasn't,
Far more maintenance and.
yeah, it wasn't cost effective to keep repairing because it was so heavy and the motors that were being put
Yeah.
in.
Yeah.
Were just burning out, because I don't think the motors are really built for that anymore. So, it had kind of run its life course. So, yeah, hopefully I
Is
won't
there
be
a
here.
is there a life expectancy on this new one?
It's more about the, number of times that it goes up and down. But I can take a look. I know that I have some, quotes on like what they suggested it would be. I'm hoping I won't be here when you need another garage door.
Oh,
That's my
right.
That's my
You know,
goal.
I won't be, that's for sure. But it has,
Mark and I either.
yeah, no, yeah, it has a warranty, obviously, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This is Joey and Olivia's problem.
Yeah.
And then on page 7, I had a couple of questions. The third bullet, I didn't know if that was a typo or not. It repeats vegetation management. And that
So-
just,
Yeah, so Dave might be able to explain that a little bit better, but the one, there's vegetation management, which is more of our tree work, that we have done with Mayor Tree is currently who has that bid. And they do a lot of our tree work. They do all of our tree work.
So that's the
We-
program trimming where we do a third of the system every year.
so that's
Yep.
the second bullet.
So the second
Yep.
one.
Yep, that's the second one. And then the third one is the management utility excavation and landscaping services. That one has to do more, I'll let Dave explain it a little bit better, but who, I know that they've done some of our excavation for some underground projects, correct?
They do small excavation, but it's going that, they do the tree plantings for us. They're, so those type of projects where our annual work that we do for tree plantings, right now Riley has it, so.
Yeah.
Riley-
There's the cutting down and then there's the planting, and it kind of has to do, when you go out to bid, it has to do with breaking ground. So they're separate.
But he does the, he goes around and talks to all the homeowners for permission for, to remove trees. He evaluates the trees that should be removed that are a hazard. He determines like we work with the town tree warden to determine the plantings as well on public way. And then on the private property, we have the private tree planting program. So he makes sure that the right tree is planted in the right place. And we use, certain trees. So he does that, and then and then in addition to that, we, if we need, because we have B&E for some excavation for the civil work, for conduit. And then in addition, we have him as the backup, so he does some light excavation as well if we need another vendor, because B&E does, sometimes they have all their work scheduled out and they may not be available, so we need another contractor, so he has all the equipment for the small jobs, so that was bid out in a multi-year contract, along with the vegetation management was built. That's the tree trimming, and both of them were multi-year contracts that were bid.
And that excavation one that Dave just mentioned, that's actually the next one that will be going out. Because traditionally on our bids, we do a 3-year contract. And then based on how pleased we are with the work that they've done, we do offer a 1-year extension for 2 years. So we can revisit it each time, but we've reached the end of that. We've been happy with B&E for our excavation and underground work, but we have to go out to bid again. Their contract ends December 1st of this year.
Okay, great. Thank you, Sarah.
You're
Thank you.
welcome. Thank you. Thanks for making it painless. Again, I'll see you next year.
Okay.
Okay. So we'll turn to agenda item number D5, strategic planning. So at our last meeting, we reviewed the strategic planning goals. Oh.
Yeah, it's up to them whether they wanna go on. Sarah's got that big smile on.
Well, I'm trying to, I hid in the basement. I'm like, do I go upstairs to my family? Or it actually might be nicer to just sit.
She's hiding. She's gonna go upstairs around 11 o'clock, say, I can't believe that meeting went so long.
Oh, God. Pete wouldn't stop talking. I'll stay on. I can't speak for everybody else. I'll stay on for a little bit longer.
Great.
Then I'll quietly exit.
Okay. Well,
Thank
feel,
you so much, everyone.
feel free to, drop off if you need to.
You'll see me crawling out the bulkhead and not going upstairs to the family.
Sneaking out.
Thanks again, everybody.
Thank you. So at our last meeting, we reviewed the 10-year goals and initiatives that came out of our strategic planning exercises. And I was speaking with Pete about perhaps discussing some priorities for 2025 goals, because we'll be planning for next year. And given that there are so many goals and initiatives, which ones do we want to focus on? I mean, realistically, probably only can take on a handful at a time each year, maybe 2 or 3. And from our discussion last time, it sounded like you had some ideas.
Yeah, I
about
think-
that.
From my perspective, the 3 that we should and could tackle next year are developing a plan for curbing the gas peak. We need to look at the 10 years load and supply forecast. And then the last one was developing a plan for criteria for applying for grants, so that it's not what you heard from Joe is that we went through a lot of stuff, and there's a lot of time put into each of these grants, and I'd say our batting average is in the low hundreds.
Days, it's not like a few minutes here and there.
Yeah.
It's days to put the information.
So we need to develop
Go in.
criteria for which ones we're gonna change. They all sound great, and everybody's gonna get $1 million for everything, and the reality is that's not true. So how much time do we spend on some of these? So I think as priorities, developing the criteria for the grants, the developing a plan for curbing the gas peak, and the 10-year load and supply forecast, from my perspective, are the three big things that, there's a lot of the other things that are in there that are ongoing. Like, we do those things
Yeah.
on a regular basis and continue to do them. And so some of these things are just continuing to do the same things that we constantly do. But in terms of like a product and a deliverable. Yeah.
There was that other one that we discussed about exploring new electric and gas rate designs, factoring in affordability. I mean, given that there is this mass interagency on rate design, the working group, I'm not sure if it
I think
makes sense to have.
I think we can monitor that. I'm not sure if we're ready to like come up
Jump
with,
in.
yeah. Some of the stuff, the feedback, I talked to Zoe and Kate a little bit today. The end of the day, it's almost better to see like some of the,
What comes out of it?
yes, what the results are, because one of the things that was stressed is the fact that the bottom line number doesn't change. It's just who you're charging for it and how you're charging them for it. At the end of the day, we need X million dollars to run the business, and that number is not really changing. So if you're gonna charge Sharon more, you're gonna charge Jack less, you're gonna charge Tom more, you're gonna charge Dave less. Whatever structure you use, all those rate designs don't change the bottom line. So, that's the thing. So I think it'll be interesting to see what comes out of some of the tests of the different rate designs. But it was important to stress that the bottom line number is going up 3% a year or whatever it's going up a year, but the bottom line number is still the bottom line number, you know, so at some level. And so how do these rate designs impact that? And so it'd be interesting to see, on October 28th is that feedback from the first study that they've done. So it'll be interesting to hear and learn a little bit more about that. One of the concepts that was floated, and I don't know how it was tested, but a much larger fixed charge and a smaller variable charge. And so that's one of the concepts that's being considered. And then the variable charge, whether it is or isn't part of a time of use option, you know, so those are some of the things that are being kicked around as different rate designs. So it'd be interesting to learn more. I think from our perspective, I'm not sure we want to be in the bleeding edge of any of that. You know, I think we should watch and learn a little bit and see. I don't think we need to come up with the most creative rate designs. And, you know, I think we can kind of monitor that for a little bit and see, you know, what comes out of it.
Yeah, there was one thing that looked interesting to think about, which was, and I haven't gone through all the materials, but they had this one slide where they were showing, sorry, I'm trying to like put it all together. They were showing what, that a gas customer pays more when they electrify and how much, but they weren't using muni rates. I would love to see a muni example of that so we understand.
Yeah, the
current
difference is smaller, but right now, the gas customers that add a heat pump, their total bill does go up a little bit.
So I would just love to see, like, maybe there's some, maybe as this goes along, there are a few like little research tasks that are more muni specific to say like, what does this look like for us?
Yeah.
Is it different? Is it the same? Just little things like that as we track what they're doing. I just wonder for
You're looking for like the total energy burden.
Yeah, exactly. Like the total energy bill. Yep, exactly.
Yeah, and that is.
Yeah.
And what they
So we
said
can
is.
just understand the current, like what's going on right now.
Yeah, I mean.
I think they did it
there's
for
a
like
lot that goes into it, but-
multifamily.
Yeah.
I think they did it for multifamily. It was very specific actually, and I can kind of point you to what they were looking at. I don't know whether we can replicate that, but I was just curious.
I mean, it would actually, your case would be an example.
Yeah.
You were a gas customer,
Right.
you added a heat pump.
But I also then added solar and an EV and
Yeah,
all at the
so-
same time, so it's pretty complicated
Yeah.
to parse it all out,
Yeah,
but
to
yeah,
unravel it, yeah,
we can try.
yeah.
I can give you the info.
Can be the test.
To start with.
Well, they were, but they were looking at multifamily buildings.
Yeah.
Also,
Yeah,
right?
so
So there's
I
different
mean,
building types.
I think there is some extrapolation that we can make, which is like, we know that our rates are X%. So if this was National Grid, our rates were, you know, 0.75% of that. So you would think that if it was $100 savings, it's $75 or $125 or whatever.
And they were looking at energy burden, so I was wondering too, whether there might be stuff specific to Wakefield that we might want to look at, whether it would look a little different or whether it's
Yeah.
basically the same. So stuff like that as we kind of track along.
Are you thinking that we would be able to kind of leverage some of the analyses that they are doing and
see if we can
and replicate them for ourselves?
Yeah,
Using our bills,
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm kind of thinking. Yeah.
costs.
Can we track along with what they're doing? And if we think like a Wakefield specific version of it would be helpful to understand. And if we can replicate it, right, for Wakefield,
Mhm.
that we can then.
But at a minimum, encourage this working group to have examples for munis.
Well, I mean, I think part of the discussion is like how we interact with this working group, right?
Yeah.
I don't really know how munis are interacting or what, yeah.
Well,
I think
yeah, I don't
part
know,
of
well,
that,
Kate, and
right.
Kate and Zoe have been following it for longer than we have, so. And they'll usually report out on stuff, so, I mean, I think it's in its infancy stage right now, so I think it's kind of monitor and see what experiences are. I mean, from the muni world, like Groton, and they've presented their stuff at a couple of places. Groton's time of use rate, so there's some experience in our world.
Mhm.
We did a subset of that with our EV time of use rate. And I think the one next thing that we do need to do is a commercial EV time of use rate.
Mhm.
And so that is something that we can work on next year, but that on a larger basis, I don't think I don't think next year it should be a priority to just come up
Yeah.
with new rates. I think we should monitor what evolves and what results come. And I think it's been helpful to monitor Groton's done. And I think the more things we get and see and learn, but I wouldn't put it as a high priority for next year.
Okay,
I mean, I would put the monitoring of that group as a high priority,
Yeah.
but not the developing of a new rate necessarily. Yeah.
okay.
There were two other things that jumped out at me. One is if HERD does launch, like if that does come through in 2025, that one might become a priority to figure out how to utilize, how to best utilize those funds. And so that one we don't know yet, but that one's top of mind. And then I wanted to just ask, when do you think we should do another customer survey? Because I know it's in here and you kind of like put a band.
Yeah,
I just wanted to get a little bit more information on what you're thinking.
I mean, we could talk about what we want to get out of it. What are we
Right.
looking for? Are we revisiting and testing the stuff we did 5 or 6 years ago and see if we've improved? Is there different data that we're hoping to find out? Those are some of my guess is that our cost and reliability data will still score very high. And there's a certain amount of testing we should do with that, no matter what, just to confirm that we've stayed in a good place with that. Probably, but what are the other things that we want to learn from the data? If it's just to verify that we got better on the few things that we were low on, or is it other things too that we want to learn?
I mean, I think my point is to what you just said, I think we should discuss what we want to learn.
Right.
Yeah, before we do a survey.
Right, yeah, and so what are the goals of it? And I will say that I thought that Great Blue was excellent at doing that. They knew their stuff, they know this market. There's the potential, they've made a presentation to E&E and MWEC about doing a more global survey with the option of creating this, they could survey for everybody. And then you could do a handful of customized questions. So they would poll all 40 munis on customer satisfaction, data reliability, and cost. And then Wakefield could add 4 or 5 questions in for customized for Wakefield, and Sterling could put 3, and so there's an option to add on a more customized version. And so it would probably be a little bit smaller Wakefield sample size, but overall muni survey in terms of some of the core things, in addition to the ability. So that's been presented to MWEC and it's being kicked around, so we could see how that evolves over the next few months, whether there's a decision because a lot of people have done kind of these, individual one-off surveys. We did ours 5 or 6 or whatever years ago, and it was very good. And one of the things that it highlighted was that the place we were probably the weakest was in our energy efficiency program. Well, we've done a lot in that world in the past 5 years. And so my hope is that we would score much higher. I mean, we're at farmers markets, we've developed a ton of new programs. We're in 1 million places. So I think we would score better on that. I would hope we would, but there are other things we want to learn.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. That's very helpful. Should we discuss, so how you wanna, roll these out for 2025? Will you, yes?
Well, we can talk about the goals and objectives, but those are the 3 that I see. And again, some of these are continue to monitor or watch. But I think developing those 3 things,
Yeah.
one of them, the electric supply and load thing, I think we've been working on that, and I don't know if we have it out as far as, we actually had a longer term one, but we'll dig into that a little bit more. And so that's one, I think coming up with a plan to try to work on curbing the gas peak is, that's huge. I think we've done a lot of good things so far, the moratorium. Multifamilies is huge, the energy park was huge. I mean, that, having two schools be all gas heat would have been, you know, a significant issue for the, and now, you know, potentially helping the schools that are existing schools come off of gas
Yeah.
heat will be huge, but, you know, some of the stuff Liv's gonna do with some of the other gas customers and find ways to just continue to curb our peak, our gas heat peak, that's a driver of our cost, you know?
A special, I mean, it's gonna take time, but the specialized energy code will start to move that, you know, new building projects.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and things like that, like setting a moratorium and the specialized energy code are things that don't force us to put incentive dollars there, you know. which
Less
are-
expensive.
Yeah,
Yeah. Would you let us know if there are any, you know, if you need more strategic guidance from the board or if there's,
yeah, I mean, we'll put it in the goals at the
Okay.
beginning of the year too, but I think
Okay.
you know, we've already kind of been working on some of these things, but we'll
Okay.
keep driving towards it.
okay,
Yeah, and you also put forth usually like a calendar of what you think we might
Yeah.
be talking about at various
Yeah,
board meetings throughout the year, so. I don't know.
and next month I'll give the proposed schedule for next year.
Yeah.
Release.
I don't know if there'd be any check-ins on some of these, or if you would show us how you,
Maybe we'll do.
of sequencing.
We can do
yeah.
quarterly check-ins on
Yeah.
the strategic planning stuff or something, make sure it's in the agenda.
It would be good to have, like discussions at board meetings on some of these things, I feel like. Yeah, so. It'd be good to have a couple meetings, like maybe, I don't know whether I guess the question is, are you thinking of having like one board meeting that would focus on each of these, like during the year? I guess I'm just
I
trying.
don't know if it would be a whole board meeting, it might be, I mean, sometimes we've used the January board meeting as a strategic meeting, because it's right after the first of the year. We could still make that a main topic of our January meeting. I don't know, I won't have stuff done on a lot of this stuff by then, but in terms of firming it up for the goals and objectives for the year, we can talk about it again in January.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, the other
Usually
thing
what we
too
use
is-
November for is the audit presentation, operating and capital budgets. And then in December, and also at the November meeting, we're gonna have, Mark, Roberts from Sprague.
Right.
And then in the December meeting, we have MWIC on the supply, and Jeff Morris will talk about IT stuff. So those are the kind of the two things that'll be on as major bullets on those next two agendas. Then in January, we usually don't meet the first week, the first Wednesday, because it's usually somehow near New Year's and Christmas, so trying to cram a board book together in the middle of New Year's and Christmas stinks, so we usually wait till that second Wednesday.
Uh-huh.
And the past couple of years, we've talked about strategic planning at some of that.
okay. All right, so,
So the only other thing I would ask is for the Sprague and MWEC presentations, can they include the electrification metrics that I think I raised previously? In both of those. So on the electric side, I think, when was MWEC last in? I remember
They were both November, December last
Yeah.
year.
I was asking for some more detail, basically, on what their assumptions were for electrification. And even on the gas, it would be good to have just like what do we assume for number of customers, and like, just some kind of basic, inputs into their forecasting. So we can kind of track year over year where we are.
Yep.
okay. Okay. Any other discussion on strategic planning?
No.
What, if we can move on to the agenda item E2, Energy Park
Yeah,
funding authorization and the vote.
so, my background on the pool loan, they're changing banks right now, so we are not, ready to present a pool loan document yet. Because they're developing a new document. They're switching from. Forget who they're currently with, Mark, but they're going.
I think it's B of A.
They're with B of A now and they're going to Chase, I think it is.
Yep.
Alright, so there's new documents that are coming, but the importance of taking the vote tonight in terms of authorizing the general manager to pursue this is that we want to make sure that we're capturing costs that we're currently making will be included in that by acknowledging that the board is aware and authorizes A, the project to go forward, and B, that we're gonna fund it this way through the pooled loan. By taking this vote, then we can count the costs that we're accumulating now, because the bank wants to know that the authorizing body has enabled us to do that, and it didn't show up in January sometime. So the costs that were, like deposits we're putting down on switchgear and on the generator, we want those to be part of the funds that we're pursuing. So the vote that they want is to authorize the general manager to pursue the funding.
Is there a specific,
The words at the end, authorization for the project and for the general manager to pursue the financing as required.
that's the motion?
Yeah.
Okay. Do we have,
Those were the words I got right from Emily.
Yeah, right.
okay. I noticed we have other pooled loans
Yes.
with
Well,
Emway.
actually, have they all been termed out, Mark? We've had pool loans in the past.
Correct. So that's, I mean, that's the term, whether it's, the debt instrument has been termed out, or whether it's a construction loan or a revolving credit, it's all under this pool. So what the pool loan is, it's a name that, MWIC has given it because our debt is pooled with other systems, other munis, debt, and it's, packaged, under MWIC, all of the other systems, and it's, marketed to, the holder of the debt, in this case, B of A or Chase, as one pooled loan pooled from a number of different systems. That's how that term is used. So, all of our debt right now is termed out, in the 2 and 3% range, and with varying maturities from 27 through 32 or 33, something like that. So the longest, I want to say it's 9 years is the furthest maturity we have out there right now. So ranging from like 5 to 9 years.
So that's the building, the substation, the generator, and
Battery.
batteries. So the generator, I think, is the first one that completes, and then the building.
Then the building.
Yeah.
Okay,
Um,
so it's phased.
Yeah.
correct.
Okay. So there's no concern with adding
No.
more debt to that. Okay. Okay. There's no other discussion. I'd like to entertain a motion for a vote.
I'll make a motion, for an authorization for the project, which is, known as the Energy Park. And for the general manager to pursue the financing that is required through the MWEC pooled loan program.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So we'll probably be back in about a month or two when they complete the transition and there's actually pool loan documents. I'll report back on that.
The last item. Agenda item E3, energy conservation charge.
Is that
We-
Joe?
Yeah, Joe, we're gonna share a screen on that, or are we just gonna talk about?
It's up to you. I could put the screen up if you want.
We just want to put this in, this is usually dealt with next month, but we wanted to put it on your radar screen so you have time to ask questions. So right now, we're probably, we have year-to-date data, but we're probably gonna come in a little bit over the budget for the year. And so what do we want to do? Is there a way to blow it up a touch, Joe?
Yeah, sure. It's tough on the laptop to know how large it is. Is that better?
Yeah,
Can you remind me, do we have budget, did we have a budget broken down by some of these elements? Like, did we have a discrete? Do we know why, I guess, what is causing the overrun?
Yeah, so a big piece of it's actually right at the top, which is the solar. So what happened is when we made the announcement that, you know, the rebate was gonna get kicked down by January 1, I think a lot of people rushed in to get their initial paperwork in and things like that, because as long as you were a certain step along the process, you know, we were going to honor the $1.20 a watt. So I think a lot of people kind of that might have been dragging their feet a little bit, that had expressed interest, they kind of jumped on the process and moved it forward pretty quickly. So there was a lot more people who came through with that solar in that time period. So I think that's a huge piece of it. There is, it seems like I guess the announcement mixed with people that were in, in the woodwork kind of came out, and that's a huge piece of it.
And how many installs does that represent? Do you have that info?
I'd have to double check. I mean, I think it's probably over 20. I'd have to double check the specific numbers on that. But I can look at that.
Because it says we're at 90 currently in the board book,
Yeah,
right?
say 20,
Yeah.
pretty significant number of.
Out of 90. We should drop the incentive. No, kidding.
People that applied when it was a dollar twenty,
Right.
I mean, we're not gonna be seeing as big of an influx of next year, so.
But those costs, I mean, we are honoring them, so they'll continue, will they?
there's probably a couple more trickling in
Okay.
that were authorized before December 31st,
Uh-huh.
but haven't finished their project yet,
Uh-huh.
so.
Yeah, there's probably a couple more left, like Pete said. But yeah, then it will, that impact will lower it a little bit, but then also with the Galvin School coming up and potentially other projects that we look at with hiring Olivia, that that might be something where we look at approaching more large commercial to see about solar. So I think that's something to consider too, as far as that number. It's higher than was expected for this year, and the residential rooftop solar is probably going to come down, but solar in its entirety may actually go up even more.
So those are just some numbers to digest right now. We're looking at, like I said, even though we won't have the influx of the $1.20 versus 80, there are other things that are gonna continue to add to costs. And so right now, we're at it's 0.7 cents is the energy conservation charge. So doing some sensitivity analysis, we don't have the ability in the billing system to go to 7.
We do. We
Huh?
can, yeah, we do. I.
Oh, you did, okay.
Yeah,
So
we
we
can go
get-
to 70075. Yeah, correct. We have-
0.0075.
Which would translate into about 40 grand. give or
Yeah.
take.
So if we went to 0.008, it would be about 90 or 85, 90.
Yeah, I mean, and that's actually this other tab kind of looks at that. anyway, this is with the 0.0075. But like, if you put 8 in there, that's kind of what it looks like there.
So to confirm, your forecast is to increase the spending in this area.
Yes,
Okay.
because the other issue is that the heat pump continues to grow.
Rise.
Yeah.
Okay, but it also looks like there's cost increases like admin it says increase due to additional position.
Well, we've added part of Olivia's time goes to the
Oh, I
program.
see. Okay, and then MWEC program are up 5 to 10% as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, yeah.
Can you just calculate for us the percent increase that you're recommending?
It's either 7 or 14.
Percent?
Yeah, hold on.
Just doing that in my head.
I know, I
While
see.
Joe went through the numbers.
Let me just put the 7.5 back.
Yeah. Still paying attention.
Did you say 7 or 14?
Well, it's between 7 and 14. So if we go with the 75, it's a 7% increase. If we go to
Oh, I see.
8. it's
I was
a-
like, how
it's a
are you getting to
14%.
that? I see.
And it looks like 6%. I mean, that's
Did you change the other ones to?
So about 41, 42K.
It would be up, for the average customer, it would go up $9 a year.
Yeah.
But
So
but you didn't change the commercial?
Elton, the commercial is a flat fee, Elton. That one is going to be static.
Oh,
That
okay.
one is going to
It's
stay
different.
flat.
Got it. Okay.
So so the cost per customer for the average customer would be $9 a year.
Okay.
Can I ask a question around with the Galvin solar, would that rebate come out of the commercial bucket or would that come out of?
It would mostly come out of the commercial bucket.
Okay.
But if we do other
Yeah. Like projects.
Commercial, yeah.
small commercial stuff.
I think it was 6% on the overall, but if you looked at the residential line item.
It was more for residential.
Correct, yeah. It goes up by another percent.
So just putting that out there for you guys to think
Okay.
about, and we don't have to finalize any discussion tonight, but we wanted to give you the numbers to start to digest and come up with any questions for next month. Usually we set it in November so that we have time to program it and put it into place for January.
I guess
Oh, sorry.
I was gonna say, you know, how much we would have to go up depends on what the numbers are expected to be next year, not what the numbers are this year. So I'm just wondering, like, how many of these numbers are actually proposed to continue to be this high?
Well, like I said,
You know.
we know our run rate on our rebate column and on our heat pumps have continued to grow. So I would forecast that those at minimum stay the same, but more than likely grow because we're promoting the heat pump side much more.
Mhm.
And so that, I don't see that changing. Solar might stay level, but, you know, so those are the main ones. I would guess that the smaller stuff like Voltrek and Abode will probably go up nominally, you know, I would guess 3 to 5%, you know, there are service contractors for the EVs and for the heat pump stuff. The Abode investment is extremely valuable, you know, I think that we need to continue to do that, so, and that'll continue to tick, that's not gonna stay the same, they'll go up a little bit, I'm sure.
So, and the solar may shift if we put more effort into the commercial solar.
Yeah.
Right, programs, and because those are larger arrays, so, you know, if we shift away from, we see a decrease in residential, we may see a increase, obviously, in the commercial.
Hmm. Would it be helpful to break out the residential from the,
We don't have too many commercial
Commercial?
right now,
Oh, okay.
so we do track the commercial too, but we don't really have any that we've subsidized at all on the commercial, so.
okay,
If I'm looking at the dashboard correctly, we've done just one residential solar since July 1. Is that?
Yeah, I have a couple that they'll probably be next month, there, you'll see if 2 or 3 more, they've been, I get copied on all the stuff as Vinny puts the meters in, so I think there's 2 or 3 active ones
Yeah.
right now. I think there's 3 that he's scheduling to put the meters in.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it would be helpful to put your projections here, like for.
2025.
Yeah, for 2025 for like each of the key categories.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense, and I think, you know, in the November meeting, I think that'll be a factor of that, you know, a more detailed look at it with those kind of numbers, maybe some visuals as well, see like some of the run rates and things like that.
Well,
Yeah.
this is usually a discussion item, so we wanted to share some of the data with you to start.
Yeah, it's very helpful.
It is, yes, it is. Thank you.
Hey. We've come to the end of our agenda. Entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Make a motion to.
Thank you,
adjourn the
gang.
meeting.
Thank you so much.
Sarah, you look very nice tonight.
Yeah, thanks, everybody.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, good night, everybody.
See you guys.
Bye.
Thanks very
Good
much.
night.